So let's just talk first about communication. So most of us understand communication is not just words. It's also, body language. It's understanding your body language, it's your behaviours, it's your tonality, it's your words, it's visual. So a lot of these elements go into communication. So therefore, not only do you have to be careful what words you choose, but also how you communicate those words as well, and along with the visual behaviour signs as well along the way as well. So we're going to go into that a bit more as we go through the slides as well. So when we're talking about having rapport, it's about it's about having something in common. Like, have you ever noticed sometimes if you stop and look at maybe a eatery or a restaurant or some friends who are getting along very well, usually you find their sitting postures are very similar. They're actually are imitating each other. So understanding that the visual is very strong and having those postures allow you to build that rapport quite easily as well. So there's a way that we build rapport, and it's called mirroring. So mirroring would be is if I'm standing in front of a mirror and I hold up my right hand, that means I'm a reflection of the person. So they would actually hold up their left hand, so it'd be a mirror as well. So if you look in the mirror and you're looking at someone, if their head's slightly tilted to the side, you would do that slightly as well. So you're doing the same posture. If they're leaning back, then you're leaning back. If you're leaning forward, then you're leaning forward as well. So it's really looking at how that person is standing and how that person is sitting, and you to become the mirror of them and create very, very similar movements as well. Such as a lot of people, when they stand, they may put their hand on their hip or something like this. So you would do the same sort of thing as well, or a movement very, very similar to that. So it doesn't have to be exactly the same, but it's similar, having a similar a movement as well. Then we talk about voice. So when we start talking about voice, it's listening to their tonality. Do they speak softly? So if they speak softly, then to match it, you would actually lower your tone to match theirs as well. Do they speak slowly? If they speak slowly, then you mimic them as well, and you adjust your speed to the same as theirs. Do they speak fast? So it's about becoming very, very similar behaviours to what they're demonstrating, because people like people who are very similar to them. So it's listening to the words, listening to the volume, listening to the speed. All of this comes into the voice as well. And of course, this is really easy to do when you're on the phone talking to someone, because you haven't got physical language. Except for today, we know a lot of online today, there's Zoom applications and things like that, so you can actually get that face-to-face interaction as well. So the next one is breathing. So if you watch someone breathing, you can tell if they're visual, kinesthetic, or auditory. So if they're breathing high in their chest, then usually they're very, very visual type people as well. So when you start looking at their breathing, you can adjust your breathing to the same rhythm as what they're doing as well. So if they're breathing fast and they're sort of overwhelmed or excited, you can match their breathing, and then you can slower your breathing down. And if you've got good rapport, they will actually follow and they will settle with you as well. If you didn't want to breathe that fast, then you could do the same movement or the rhythm, just tapping your foot under the desk or actually tapping your pen. That actually will create the same sort of rhythm movement. And of course, you're going to do that very discreetly, so they can't see you doing that as well. So again, the rhythm is really a really good skill to understand as well. Then we go into the matching movement levels. So we've talked about that as well. So here's a bit of a slide here to actually show you what I was talking about. So it'll take you through that matching movement level as well. So that's a little bit about your rapport. That's a little bit about how you can actually start to create rapport. And of course, you've got to listen to the types of words that they're using. So if they're visual, and they'll start to use words like clear, They'll use words like crystal clear. That's crystal clear for you. I can see the vision. I can see what you mean. That means if they're using those words see or whatever, or vision, that means they're very visual. If they're using words like I hear where you're coming from, it sounds like this, then that obviously means they're auditory. And if they're kinesthetic, they'll use words like I feel a bit like this, or I feel a bit like that. I grasp the idea, and that means they're kinesthetic. So the idea is you want to try and match similar words once you start listening to them, so you start to adapt the same modality as what they're doing as well.